Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm just gonna dive right in this week. I present a different idea in the form of a list. So the list I have today, which I wrote down here, is about email etiquette and just some patterns and tips that I've picked up over the last 8 years or so. Even before that, I feel like I've been sending emails even since being in middle school and high school, as my school was a laptop-based school, so every student had one and we worked with those. So I learned about email structure and all that kind of stuff very, very early in life. And then, of course, in all my different work settings and even now working as a freelancer, still email is a huge part of my communication. I don't think it's going to go anywhere anytime soon, even though we've seen, of course, the rise of AI and there's different tools that can help you, of course, to do your emails. But if you're just trying to get better at structuring your emails and writing them overall and just kind of finding your voice in a professional way, then these tips might be of use to you. So the first tip I have is to respond promptly. This is something that I'm not always good at, especially now that I'm not working in as structured of an environment, but the best thing you can do is really respond in a timely manner, especially if people are asking you for certain things so they can keep their work moving along. I mean, of course, you can't be on your email all the time because you also likely have things to be doing and you shouldn't just be, beholden to your email inbox, but definitely try to be timely. You can either do this by kind of setting different windows for yourself. So when I was working in a more structured setting, I would make sure to check within that first 20 to 30 minutes to see if anything came in overnight. I would check again, maybe 15, 20 minutes before I took lunch, and then kind of a mid-afternoon, like 2:30 to 3 o'clock checkpoint, which is when I would typically be taking my dog out as well. So just very easy. It's like, okay, let's go through my inbox, see if there's anything there. If not, take the dog out, and then again by end of day and probably like the last 20, 30 minutes, just to see if there's been any responses. So if you're checking at the same time every day, people will get used to your response times as well, which will be very helpful. If it's something urgent, of course, they'll find a different way to reach out to you. Like maybe there's an internal communications platform like Slack and you guys can message within that. Or, there's other ways that they can flag you if something needs to be kind of addressed sooner than you would in your normal response windows. But be prompt and set yourself specific times to check and, just respect people's time, because when it comes to you also needing things from people, you want them to respect your time. It just makes sense. The second thing I would say is spell people's names correctly. People have been messing up my name's pronunciation and spelling for as long as I can remember. Now, automatically, when I meet someone new, even if I'm like checking in somewhere or, I'm on the phone with someone, I just start spelling it automatically, just to save time and just so they can start to think about mentally what that spelling and my name looks like. But typically they're signing off with their name or it's in their email signature. So take that extra 30 seconds to make sure that you're spelling the person's name correctly. Again, something you want returned to you. A lot of these things are just about, reciprocal treatment. So, if you want someone to spell your name correctly and address you correctly, you should be doing the same for them, especially if that email information is right in front of you in that email. So I think that makes sense. Mirror salutations. I think this is a big one. So this is an easy way to understand kind of the level of formality and professionalism that an organization is going for. Or, basically it even comes through in like their brand tone of voice, right? So if someone's always saying, "Dear so-and-so," or if they're always saying hello, or sometimes they just go right in with the name, or they just go right to hey, mirror that back to them, especially if they're a newer contact. It's just like a great way to show that you're picking up on those cues and that you're being attentive to those details. So if someone's saying, hey to you, to me that's, I've had teachers say in the past, like, never say hey kind of thing. And like, that's fine if that's like what they want and, address them based on what they want. But if there's folks that you have a more casual relationship with, I think if they're saying hey, especially if they're starting off the conversation, I think it's okay to mirror that back. So like, they don't have to feel weird about it. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be this totally formal thing all times. Sure, email is definitely a professional medium of communication 95% of the time. Some people just use that as a way of communicating in general. But you just want to make sure that you're mirroring people's salutations, so that way the tone of the conversation can flow based on how the initiator is hoping for it to go. So if they're keeping it formal, you keep it formal. If they're keeping it casual, you keep it casual. Again, about mutual respect, reciprocity. Very simple. The fourth thing I have for you is to keep it concise and professional. So this kind of goes back to my last one about mirroring salutations. Also be respectful when it comes to what you're actually putting in the body of the email. So if someone's coming to you asking for something quick, they have one or two things they've addressed in there, make sure that you're addressing everything, but not being long-winded. Make it so that it's easy for them to digest what it is that you're saying in your response, and that you've shown that you've really thought through what it is that they're asking and that you're addressing all points. So, for example, if someone sends you a list of questions, list it the same way. 1, 2, 3, 4, your response is back. So it's easy to see the flow, of the conversation, and it shows that everything has been addressed based on how they've laid it out. So really it's just paying attention to the patterns, right? So making sure that you're concise in your answers, you've covered everything that's been asked of you, and you're keeping it in check with the way that things are being laid out. You're keeping things professional, unless of course you agreed to have your emails be more casual in nature. Keep it professional, keep it concise, and stick with the format being presented if you can. In terms of readability as well, I think something that's important, and this is my fifth thing, is to not be afraid of spacing. Don't be afraid of spacing. You don't have to put everything into one paragraph. Break up the different thoughts. Make it easy for people to read, for people to digest, for people to understand. Don't be afraid of the white space in the email. It's not a bad thing to have that. It's actually a good thing. It really shows that you are being meticulous in detail. It really shows that you are trying to make sure that everything you're saying is easy to see and understand, and that nothing's being missed. And the fact that you just took that extra little time to lay out the email, people will probably really respond to that in a positive way. So don't be afraid to use the white space. Don't be afraid to break things up into small paragraphs, and just see what kind of emails you get back in response as well. Just your job to mirror someone else's responses and their style of emailing, but they can also take cues from what you're doing, and you can set the tone in the conversation, especially if you're the one initiating it. The last tip I have for you when it comes to email etiquette is this: proofread. Even if you have to use some sort of tool out there, if this is not your strong suit, please proofread. Proofread names, proofread salutations. Make sure your punctuation is in the correct spot. Just taking that extra time, again, to really give attention to all those little points of detail just comes across a lot better. It will be very well received. People will be really happy with reading such clear and precise copy. You're not going to get it right every time. It's inevitable, especially if you are just using your own talents and powers as a human. You're never going to get it 100% of the time, but getting it 99% of the time will be very much appreciated. So take that time to proofread, make sure everything is in the right order, make sure any details and that you responded to everything that's being said, and just make sure things are spelled correctly. Make sure, again, punctuation's good, and people who receive that email, if they're actually appreciative of the craft that goes into writing an email, they should also appreciate that and hopefully reciprocate that. So that's it. Those are my 6 top tips when it comes to email etiquette and things that you can try to implement if you haven't already. And I'll see you next week.